Welcome to Sea of Whales, the Whale Geek podcast, where whale watching and whale research meet. I'm your host, Shauna Prince, scientist and whale watch operator, bringing you conversations with whale researchers and ocean experts from around the globe. Let's dive in. Today, we're joined by Tanya Lubansky of College of the Atlantic and Allied Whale Director of Photo Identification Research for North Atlantic Humpback whales. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I think we're going to start today just by talking about how you got into marine science. So how'd you end up here?
Oh, that's like a long meandering tale.
I think everyone's is.
But yeah. I didn't jump right into whale research right away, and I always knew that I loved the ocean, but I most importantly was really passionate about just environmental science. So in both my undergraduate and graduate careers, I was kind of warped into all kinds of different research, both like terrestrial and marine stuff. And in my brain, my soul just kept coming back to the ocean. Like I would do different experiences in like the desert or in like tropical areas. And then every time I was on a boat, I just felt like I was most at home. And it was actually in my current position, I ended up really falling in love with the Gulf of Maine when I took an internship with the group that I'm currently working with right now. And it was on a whale watch boat, and we were documenting the different humpback whales and fin whales on all of the boats that we were seeing and entering all of that data. And there was something just incredibly satisfying in that clicked with me. And my brain started going into so many different questions. And that was like basically right before I started my doctorate work. And so through my doctorate, I kept interacting with the groups that were cataloging whales and started developing research projects that were specifically with that data. And kind of just never looked back. Started also working at an offshore research station that the College of the Atlantic, where we're based, operates. And it's a tiny little island just 25 miles out into the ocean, where it's like it feels like you're on a boat, but you're on land and can actually like cook in a kitchen, but see a whale swim by. And it's amazing. And yeah, just started continuing to spend lots of time out there and didn't really want to go anywhere else.
That's awesome. What's the name of the island?
Mount Desert Rock.
Awesome. I've heard of that before, actually.
Yeah, it literally is a rock. It's the top of an underwater mountain, and there's no real vegetation except for like weird shrubs and things that lighthouse keepers had brought out like a century ago.
Neat.
It's just a ton of granite.
What a great experience.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the catalog. So how many humpback whales are in the catalog like this morning?
Yeah. I actually looked anticipating you asking that, because
you knew I was going to ask that.
Yeah, every week we're constantly continuing to catalog new individuals, and at this moment, as we speak, it's 13,373. A lot of threes in there.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's a lot of whales.
It is a lot of whales. It's a lot of
and
whales.
I will say, like, some of those are dead whales, so we keep track of both living. We don't remove any that we know have died from there. We just have a different category within our database for them.
Right, because they've been cataloged throughout their life at some point. Right.
Yes.
And we have no idea, of course, how many of those whales that have been cataloged are still living.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. We only get the reports of those that are dead, and a lot that are dead we can't actually identify because a lot of the skin has been already sloughed off of their flukes.
We had one this week that was entangled and came ashore just south of us the next bay down. And so received several pictures, but not able. And of course, when you use Happy Whale and you try to use the algorithm, but there's ropes in the way and there's all kinds of things happening in terms of damage, it makes it really, really hard. So while it would be really nice to know who it was, sometimes it's just not possible to tell.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I will say, if you do have good fluke pictures, you can send them to us and we can try to run them through our catalog too.
Sure, I definitely will. I'll send those to you when we're finished today. Thanks so much for that. Yeah. I know we have had a couple of really significant matches over the years with the catalog. And it seems like every time you guys get to processing a batch of our data, there's some other kind of weird and wonderful thing that comes up. That's maybe it feels like it's like that just for me because it's my data, and probably other people feel like that too. So I know we had a furthest eastern traveling Western North Atlantic humpback whale to the Azores. And then the next year we had one to Franz Josef Land, Russia, which smashed the record. We've had a match with
Yeah.
Ireland. And now we've had this new match with Cabo Verde or Cape Verde. It depends on who you talk to, how you say it. You want to talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, I would just say in there too, like because we have so much data, we definitely have like these really large scale patterns that are the norm. And I think the ones that we like continue collecting data, they keep kind of affirming that norm and we see these big patterns and we can kind of synthesize that. And then it's the weird ones that get us like really excited and really, and it feels like the
Absolutely.
more we keep cataloging, the more that those weird ones start popping up. And it makes you wonder like, okay, is the norm really the norm, or is there so much more that's going on there and we just don't have the data to totally understand it? And this is like one of those things. And I feel like so the Cabo Verde Islands are off the coast of Africa, and it is currently designated as a distinct population segment for the humpback whale, and one of the only that is really currently classified as an endangered population because their numbers are so low.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as the effort has been increasing in that area in terms of whale watches. And as the population seems to continue growing, we're getting more and more data and starting to connect and see some more of those patterns. Historically, as we are collecting and documenting this data within our catalog, most of our matches showed those whales in that like distinct norm pattern. So like that norm pattern where those whales coming down to the coast of Africa to breed and then going exclusively along the eastern part of the North Atlantic to head up to the like northern Norway feeding grounds in those areas. And humpbacks, they typically like they have a lot of fidelity to their feeding grounds. I recently did like a large scale analysis of feeding grounds, and there's not a lot of mixing that happens in between those. And so you feel like if we have all these individuals that are always doing that, that's how it is. And then we've started getting a few weird sightings. We had a few of the Cape Verde animals pop up in some Greenland data, and we've had a few of those, and that was matches. And then your match, Shauna, came like on a total surprise, and it was actually really fun because I just taught a student from our college how to be using the algorithm, and he was like running stuff and he found that match and was like, "Whoa, is this a cool one?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a really, really cool one."
Is this
And it
something?
was
And you're
showing,
like, oh, it definitely is. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, yes, one of your whales to matching the Cape Verde population, and it's an interesting find. It's also like a very, very relevant find when we start thinking about the larger scale conservation of these animals too. Because if we are thinking and assuming that our endangered population is only traveling one certain trajectory, but in reality they have a wider range and we have individuals that are there's more mixing than we thought, then that really changes the way that we think about the conservation and the protection of those species.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I will say, like the ones that are popping up in Greenland, it is an area too where there's still like a subsistence hunting that is going on in that area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Um,
definitely some interesting conservation implications about the western moving CBI whales.
yeah. Do we have any idea about what is happening with the numbers of that population? Was that population always smaller than ours on this side of the Atlantic? Has the population been declining in recent years or increasing? Like, do we even know anything about that?
So we don't have data from forever, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to look back at like historic populations and know exactly what was going on at that time. But we can tell you from looking at the data that we've collected, that has been submitted to our catalog in the past like 10 years or so, the population seems to be increasing. The number of individual whales that we continue to document keeps going up and up and up, almost at like an exponential rate.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like that population is growing. One interesting thing, so one of my colleagues, Fred Wenzel, has been doing a lot of work with the data there, and that he communicates with the whale watches in those areas and had spent some time in the field there in a long time ago. And he's been working a lot with that data and seeing while that population is increasing, we don't know what is happening to the calves. So the calves have a very low return rate. We've had like only a handful of calves reappear in that area.
Hmm.
So we don't know if the population is increasing because different individuals are moving in. Like we've had a
Mhm.
few matches between the CBI area off the coast of Africa and like the Lesser Antilles breeding
Hmm.
grounds. So
Hmm.
there is a little bit of mixing in that. So we don't know if there's like individuals coming in, um, or if the population is actually growing, like the calves are coming and surviving, and we're just not documenting them or seeing them.
Hmm.
But yeah, where the calves are is like a mystery right now.
And no one's seeing them anywhere else. I'm thinking maybe they stay on the breeding grounds and don't need to go to the breeding grounds right away.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we had one really cool match, and that's actually going to be published in a short note this next month or so, where a mom and calf from CBI were captured and documented, and then seen. I forget the number of days, but it was very, very quick, fast, rapid travel, and
Mm,
documented up in northern Norway or
wow.
waters together.
Yeah.
Not too far after that,
Hmm.
with fast moving mama and calf, and they made it and they were okay. So that's like
Wow.
one document that we've had and seen
Yeah.
them, that first year calf actually make it to the feeding ground. But there have been some like with orca scars, so we don't know if there's some predation and something that's going on, or yeah, as you're saying, they're just hanging out in the feeding grounds. We've gotten a lot more. We've had some winter data coming in from places in Europe and Norway and Russia. And
Hmm.
so we don't know a lot about those individuals that overwinter, because not a lot of people are on the water taking
No.
pictures in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could be that they're just not coming down to breeding right now, and they're
It's
alive somewhere.
interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that they're sort of spreading out a little bit when they are moving out of their breeding and calving area, but that doesn't give them increased, like it doesn't expand their family tree any if they're all going back to the same very small breeding area with just 400
Yeah.
individuals, right? So
Yeah.
that's a concern
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So I mean, they're similar in size to what we're looking at with the North Atlantic humpback whale or with the North Atlantic right whale population, right? So when you
Mhm.
look at that, and we're in a situation where a lot of those trees don't branch anymore, right? So there's just nowhere for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think so, and with humpbacks, luckily, like the global population is doing quite well, and there
Hmm.
is not, like, if one population is decimated, it's sad, but it's not the loss of that species. So it is a slightly different with the North Atlantic right whale.
Hmm.
But one thing that is interesting too, while the sample size and um, there's some issues with some genetics data, there is some genetics data coming from
Hmm.
that population too, and it doesn't suggest that it's like an unhealthy population
Hmm.
in the way that like some of those other really small populations that are separated are. So that makes you think that there is some more mixing than we realize too.
Yes. Yeah. I think there are, I always talk about this on the boat that we as humans like to put things in categories and put them in little boxes.
Yeah.
So, like, these
Yeah.
whales stay on their side of the Atlantic, these whales stay on their side of the Atlantic. They go north and south. That's how
Yeah.
everything happens. That's how it is. But the problem is that whales can't read the things that we write, and they do things for very different reasons. And
Mhm.
many of those reasons we may not ever understand. And so these anomalies that we continue to have are really, like you said, very interesting. They're teaching us more than the norms are teaching us. So, you know, are these movements that would have happened before when the population was much larger? Or is there another reason for why they're moving further and, north and further east than they ever did before, or west in some cases with the Cabo Verde whale? So, I mean, who knows? It's anybody's guess,
Yeah.
really, you know?
Yeah, it is hard when you can't actually just like have a conversation with the animals that you're studying and try to have them tell us what they're doing. Like we get these little snapshots of data and then try to
Mhm.
make these like really big assumptions. And
Yeah.
so many different things that can be going on. I always think back, my graduate advisor studied elephants, and he was like modeling their habitat movements, and you would see individuals that just do really weird things when you tag them. Like some of them,
Mhm.
they're like, oh yeah, we're only going to go this far because it makes sense. The food is right here and we don't have to go any further. And then some would go really, really far, and
Mhm.
he would equate it to like, okay, if you like to get coffee from this very specific Starbucks, you really like Starbucks and you really need Starbucks, like you're gonna be willing to travel and jump in your car and go a half an hour so that
Yeah.
you don't have to drink this like gas station coffee. This is what you want. So
Yeah.
you might spend a little extra energy and do something a little bit weirder and go
Mhm.
that direction. And like we can just talk to each other about those preferences, but the animals, like we are just trying to figure out what they're doing. And,
Yeah.
some places send lots of data into us and some places we don't. So like when we have really high effort in certain areas, we like it's just easy to like bias your assumptions based on like where you're getting data or what you're analyzing or what you're doing, when in reality, like there's so much that we can't see and know.
No, it's true. It's super
But that's
interesting.
also like why it's so cool to look at. Like I feel like why I keep really interested in this job is because like every time we get a new pocket of data, we find something different. And like
Absolutely.
the whales like just keep surprising us, and it's really cool.
Yep. And you're finding unexpected things, literally all the time, right? I know there was a study done. I don't know if it was before your time there with some of our data and scarring from orca attacks on the tails that we had submitted, and then equating that with sort of the prevalence of attacks of orcas on humpback whales. And it was super interesting. Our feeding ground had the highest incidence of orca.
Yeah, so that was before my time, but I read that paper and it was super surprising to me because I would not have thought that your area would have been
the question is, do we have more orca predation, or are the orcas that we have here less successful at actually making a kill?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
that's true. They're
right?
just like grazing there, and the
because
scars
you're
were
not
left, but
able
they didn't
to
beat anything else.
equate, like the scars are from animals that have survived an attack, not the ones that didn't survive, because we have no evidence of the ones who didn't survive. And so that's the thing when you're working with these data sets, like you're very much a detective trying to figure out what's happening. And the clues you have are just these photographs that sometimes are few and far between for some areas, and sometimes are really well documented. And even, seeing differences in animals and the things that they've encountered, obviously through, entanglements or orca attacks or prop marks or whatever, from one year to the next, or sometimes a several year gap, is super interesting. Like you said, when, you really wish you could just talk to them, because man, the stories they would tell, right? It's so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's totally it's like forensic science, and I've taught a lot in education, and I always tell like ecology students they want to be outside and they want to be out on the field and collecting data. And in reality, so much of ecology is like math and sitting
at your computer,
and, like trying to make sense of like really, really weird data. And
it's like,
a lot
enjoy
of
your summer,
statistics.
because the rest of the year you'll be at your computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, I that orca study I talk about a lot, just because we do have a lot of whales that have scarring on them, and presumably that's mostly happening when they're calves, not when they're adults. We've not ever really seen an attack on an adult humpback, but we have had them.
Do you see orcas in your area?
Oh yes, we have a catalog.
Oh yes, a lot. Yeah. Oh, you do. Of course you do.
We do, and they are feeding mostly on manky whales when they're here, and we do witness kills, and it's you kind of hope to have like a group on there that's not. It's hard to watch an apex predator.
Yeah,
it's hard to watch. And they, we have watched them like pull it apart. They have brought almost like a gift to the boat. So like they're over here feeding, and then they brought the manky whale dorsal fin to the boat and like left it at the boat and like swam away, like wild, weird stuff.
Wow. Talking about like wanting to speak to animals. It's like, what is that about?
Yeah, right.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So
we've also witnessed like the whole, like the reputation that humpbacks have for being like the superheroes and like intervening. So we have also witnessed humpbacks intervening when a fin whale calf was being attacked. So like interspecies, like this needs help, right? And so they were a little too late to stop it, but they were in the mix and in the middle of it all. When it was all going down, which was really interesting, like came out of nowhere.
And the humpback wasn't attacked at all during that process.
No,
it was just ignored. Interesting. Yeah. And so maybe like those scars are coming from those types of situations, like not necessarily from them being the target as the prey, but more from them being there during that process and getting nicks and scrapes and grazes. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so wild.
But Shauna, you should write a book. I'm just thinking of like all of like the collective things that you see and all of the stories and like the insights. It's so interesting. It'd be like so cool to just like synthesize it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, in all your spare time.
I'm going to send you the entanglement picture and then I'm going to write a book. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I think I definitely could. I mean, there's certainly some weird and wonderful things we see out there. And then it's the trying to make sense of what you've seen after the fact. And even when you're on the same boat with like 10 or 12 different people, sometimes their perception of what was happening is different. Or even I find sometimes the angle on the camera that's in the bow is different than someone who shot it from the stern. And so you can kind of make a more complete picture. There was a documentary, Ocean Explorers, that was on Disney Plus a little while back.
Okay.
And they were supposed to be out doing humpback work, and they ended up having an orca attack. And they have all the technology at their fingertips. I don't know if you've seen this, but they were able to like
no, I haven't.
fully in 3D recreate the attack and who orchestrated it and who was in charge and like what these certain whales did at certain times, like the whole playbook, like watching something out of like an NFL playbook. Only it was orcas orchestrating an attack on this mother and calf. And it was wild, like what they can show us when they have drones in the air, people with cameras everywhere, you know, things in the water. Like it was a very different experience than when you're only seeing like from the surface. And we miss so much because we're only observing them from the surface. Like their world is, you know, they have the depth part that we don't get to see most of what's happening down there. And so, you know, how much do we miss?
And just like tiny snapshots in time.
Yeah. It's so
I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
Communication and stuff too. Like we're training our interns this week just of, we define this as an association. These animals are traveling together. Those animals are not traveling together just because this is how the science always does it. But in reality, like they're all talking underwater. You know, those whales that are feeding. Yeah. Not very
communicate
far
with each other.
Long distance. Yeah. It's so again, like back to your just humans putting things into these weird categories just because this is how we do it. But in reality, like we like some boxes. We like to like put a label on it. Like this is an association and but in reality, it's just so much that we don't understand and know because we're only seeing what's happening right here.
Yeah. I'm loving all the like people who are doing drone work and some of the things they're able to see because we can't see them from that you know, that. Totally. And when I talked to Poor Cooley in Ireland, he was saying that now they have to have like 2 catalogs because all of their female cataloging was from like the water. So it's just like the side of the dorsal fin. And now you have them being taken from the top and you can't always correlate. Like you can't match those 2 whales together because the angles are different, right?
So allied whale, we're actually talking about this a lot right now because we have a North Atlantic fin whale catalog too, but it's been relatively dormant for the last 10 years, but historically recorded like thousands of individuals throughout the Gulf of Maine and a little bit beyond. And we're interested in reviving it, but now a lot of people, like some people are taking them from above, and which is great for like a local catalog, but only so many people actually have a drone. So when you're starting to collect from like whale watches and other contributors and trying to make these bigger scale patterns, it's like harder to synthesize in that way. So I'm relieved that humpbacks aren't doing that yet.
Yeah, not yet. And for us in Canada, we aren't allowed to fly drones over whales unless there's like very specific distances unless you have a permit.
Do you have a permit? Yeah, I was gonna say unless you have a permit.
And so you know you're not going to get that from everybody, right? So we're hoping that we'll be able to get a permit in the next little bit to do some work with our sperm whales to figure out length because we have all adult male sperm whales. So getting a better idea about how big are these guys really would be really nice.
Do you keep a sperm whale catalog too?
We do, yeah. I think I have 67 boys in my catalog since 2003. And they've just this week started to show up again on both sides of the peninsula. And it's been a really long time since we had sperm whales in the Trinity Bay Trench. So though the ones that are over in the Trinity Bay Trench are boys that we have been seeing in the Bonavista Vista Bay, on the Bonavista Vista Bay side. So we're on a peninsula and we have 2 bays that we can kind of choose from. And we have Zodiac, so we haul the boat up and move over to the other side. So today it's foggy here. So we're on the other side because it's off the land and clear over there. Awesome. Yeah, it's really nice. So we're in a really unique situation. I realize it's not the norm for most whale watch companies. They have to kind of stay put. Usually they're in bigger vessels and it's a little harder. And they're not, you know, on these fingers of land like we have everywhere in Newfoundland where you can just like 25 minutes from here and we're in a completely different bay again, right? So it's really great because we don't lose as many days on the water because we're willing to move, but it's a lot of extra work to do that too. So But yeah, it's
How far offshore do you go with your boats? Like, are they really close to land, your sightings, or do you have
yeah.
to travel quite a bit?
Yeah, so typically we're pretty close to shore. Later in the season, the humpbacks will move off, and there's a couple of areas that we'll go to that we know are hot spots. But we have to have pretty much perfect conditions to get out that far. Most of the time, we
Okay.
never lose sight of land because
Yeah,
our
I was gonna
whales are
say a lot of your
feeding.
pictures, I feel like there's land
Yeah,
in the background.
so our whales are feeding on capeland that lay their eggs on the beaches. So most of the feeding activity
Oh,
is like literally right off the beach. Yeah. So it's kind of a
that's
wild
awesome.
situation here. And because we were glaciated fairly recently in geological time, not
Yeah.
that recent in real time, we're still like, we have really deep, it's immediate depth offshore. And the beaches are not very well developed and kind of like gravelly, which is perfect for Cape, and that's exactly what they need. But then when those glaciers went out, they carved these two big trenches, one up the middle of Trinity Bay and one up the middle of Bonavista Bay. So we have really
Okay.
crazy deep trenches, not very far offshore. So you'll see, even with most of our sperm whale pictures, that you can see land in the background, which is kind of crazy. Normally you have to
So,
go really far
yeah,
off, or be on
that's
like a
amazing.
volcanic island. So like New Zealand, the Azores, like places like that, Dominica, they're all great places for sperm whales because they have that immediate depth, but a very different situation than what we have here. So,
That's so
yeah, we're
cool.
really lucky to be able to do that. So I know like a lot of people in your area like have to go quite far offshore.
Oh
Um,
yeah, they have
yeah,
big boats and they travel at least like 20 to sometimes like 50 plus miles offshore off the
yeah,
coast.
yeah. And I mean,
So
the
it
bigger
feels like
boats
you're in
have
the
to go
middle of
slower.
nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Well,
we're
well,
doing
the
like
bigger boats,
three and
they
four
go pretty
trips.
fast, but everyone gets really
Yeah,
sick.
yeah, exactly. We're doing like 3 and 4 trips a day. And
Yeah.
we can like successfully watch whales in a 2 hour span and get everybody back to the wharf again. So,
Amazing.
it's a very different situation here. We don't run the shorter trips until now. We started just this week, when things start to move in a little bit closer. And prior to that, we do 3 hour trips and are,
Yeah.
generally, have a really high success rate as well. So it's a really different situation here than in most other whale watching areas because of the Capeland and because everything comes so close to shore. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really very different than a lot of places. And it's always interesting when I get to talk to people who are in other areas and they're kind of shocked about like what is happening here. And I remember being involved in a
Okay.
conversation with a bunch of whale watch naturalists talking about how cold the water was there.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's a little warmer for us here this year. And they were all sharing their data. And then I'm like, this is what our temperature is. And they're like, whoa, that's really cold. I'm like, but that's warm for us. Like
That's so
a
funny.
lot further north than everyone else that we're talking to. And that makes a big
Yeah.
difference,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I'm the only one in that group that's ever dealt with like iceberg sightings on whale watch tours
Oh my
before too.
gosh.
So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so it's a bit of a different world up
It's a
here.
whole
Yeah.
different beast. It's
Yeah.
I'll have to make it up there one day.
You definitely will. We'd be most happy to host you for sure. What kinds of trends are you seeing in the population right now? Are you seeing anything that's worrying or anything that's surprising?
It really depends where you're looking. And yeah, that's such a broad question. And like I could answer that local because like Allied Whale, we have like long-term local research within the Gulf of Maine. But then with our catalog, it's like ocean basin wide.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the question of this year too, is like how is this population doing? Because the North Atlantic humpback whale is undergoing in-depth assessment by the IWC right now.
Mhm.
And so we just actually finished like a big workshop and some discussions trying to answer that very question, like what is the status? What is the trend?
Yeah.
And the answer it's really complicated and really complex to really know because there is a wealth of data for humpback whales and compared to other species, but there's still so much gaps in that data. I would say within the Gulf of Maine, we're seeing a lot of change. Um, they're not designated as an endangered species. The population is healthy, the population is thriving, but
Mhm.
at the same time, there's a lot of entanglement. We see so much scarring on the whales. We are still in what we call an unusual mortality event within the United States, meaning that
Mhm.
there's a much higher rate of mortality than we would expect with the normal baseline.
Mhm.
And there's still not like really clear answers of
Why?
like what's
Yeah.
behind those deaths. And then in terms of like local movements in areas, there's a lot of shifting of where we're seeing animals located, and their movement patterns and the travels of those individuals within the course of a feeding season. And
Mhm.
I actually just published a paper a few months ago looking at our kind of local data and trying to model and the changes in decision making of animals over the past like 20 years. And we're seeing just a lot more searching behavior of animals that used to like go to these hotspots are now roving a lot more and being seen in areas where we didn't used to really document them. So it
Mhm.
feels like times are changing on a local scale.
Mhm.
Um, on a big scale, we're going to be trying to answer those questions. We're getting some funding to look specifically at like breeding grounds and try to get some stock estimations and
Mhm.
not necessarily like concrete numbers, but at least like trying to designate if there are any different trends in the different breeding stocks in terms of population over the past like the in-depth assessment happens every 25 years, so trying to look at like in this past 20, which is kind of ridiculous in some
Yeah.
ways, like so much happens in 25 years,
It's
like we're
true.
definitely going to
Yeah.
see change. But yeah, at least like trying to get a feel for like what has been shifting and what has been changing.
Mhm.
um but yeah, we don't there's a lot of data gaps, and it's hard to answer that question really broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, just to unpack a few things there, the movements that you're seeing when you say whales are being seen in slightly different areas, are they moving further north typically?
Well, in the Gulf of Maine, it's kind of funny because like there's only so far you can go north. And so a
When
lot
you
of it's
hit
actually
land,
moving
yeah,
like west.
east, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like a lot of our whales off the coast of Maine and like northern Maine used to like congregate in certain hot spots, and we're seeing those, and like one of them is around Mount Desert Rock, our field
Mhm.
research station where I mentioned, and we've seen sightings going down and or at least being more sporadic and less predictable. Like it
Mhm.
used to be, we used to know like by the calendar like when certain fin whales would show up at this island,
Yes.
and it's like all over the map. Like occasionally we'll see fin whales there now, and not really that frequently at all. And so
Mhm.
like our local whale watch is now traveling oftentimes into Canadian waters,
Mhm.
like really far away from Maine, to
Mhm.
get to these other areas like off Grand Manan Banks
Mhm.
where they're still seeing a lot more productivity. But yeah, so it's kind of hard for their business for one.
Yeah, it's far.
And
And
like
with gas
hard
prices being up,
for
it's even harder. Yeah.
yeah, right?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
from Southwest Nova Scotia. So, like Briar Island and Long Island, like the hotspots
Oh
are
yeah.
only about a little over an hour from where I grew up. So it's kind of like, the norm for us. Like I came from a whale watching area and I actually worked,
Yep.
at a Grand Manan doing some right whale tagging one summer, for a little bit. So familiar with that area for sure.
Super
I mean,
cool.
it sounds far because you're like in another country's like water, but like Maine is
I
to
know.
Canada. So
Reality.
it's like, you know, but yeah, I totally respect that. Like there's a lot of movement that needs to happen to find those whales. And even, the shift of the North Atlantic right whales that were there all the time. And we certainly had seen, cataloging the population and then, changing shipping traffic lanes and things to sort of avoid those
Mhm.
whales. And now how often are those even being seen in the area? Right.
Yeah.
So the
No,
changes of
yeah.
that population have been wild.
It's again though kind of putting it into like our human boxes and our human mode, right? Like
Mm.
we're seeing these big shifts because like this is where our research station is based and like
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
want to go further, but in reality it's like the whales are driving to the next town to get food,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
they're like
Our
moving a
country.
little bit further away. Yeah,
Yeah.
or country.
Yeah. Yeah.
um it's not life or death for the whales. Like the whales are doing okay, it seems, but it just is different. And so I think when
Yes.
we react and it feels different, it's hard to know what's going on. It's also hard to know because like there's so much complex oceanography, and like some of it
Yes.
things
Yeah.
happen on these like decadal level cycles and oscillations and changes, and our human research projects are like a tiny fragment in the scope of these like big shifts. So
Yes.
it's always hard to like to pull out like what is this like change, is it like really something that we need to be concerned about, or is this just something that is it shifts back and forth.
Yeah.
But I would say another person who'd be interesting for you to talk to would be Shelley from Briar Island, because
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
feel like she tells great stories for one, and she's just been noticing, I feel like, that a lot of her whales don't look good.
Mm.
Um and I think that's more concerning, is like not like where are these whales popping up, but like what is their health, and like are they looking like they're not eating well?
Yeah, I have certainly talked to Shelley over the years, which is great. And I had taken when I was teaching in Nova Scotia some classes there. We were supposed to
Mhm.
go whale watching, but like weather didn't cooperate. And so she did talks for my classes, which
Mhm.
was really nice, just from that area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really good to, I think we all don't get enough of a chance to talk to each other. And so
Agreed.
sometimes it's really interesting when you get to sit and chat and you're like, wait a minute, you see that too? We're seeing that too.
Totally.
And I know when we were at the conference in Tadoussac, Andrew's talk that he did, when he talked about these like pockmarks that we're seeing and he's seeing and what he thinks might be happening with that. And it was kind of interesting when people are like, I'm seeing that or I'm not seeing that. And so, like, is this a large scale thing or just like a very small group that has these, or like what is the actual deal with this? And so it's really interesting with sometimes like an offhand comment that someone makes, you're like, wait a minute, say that again. Like, so I think it's really important for us to have these opportunities to talk, and to talk about
Agreed.
changes and learn about, the same animals are behaving very differently in other places, right? So,
Mhm.
why are they doing that? What are they doing in your area that they're not doing in my area? And why is that happening? So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's neat. But
Well,
I
that's
think,
like kind of the beauty of catalog work, and it's like just
yes,
opens the door to connect all of these people around the world who are like taking pictures
absolutely.
of these animals and like
Yeah.
documenting things and talking about those things. I wish that we could
Yeah.
figure out a way though to like a lot of it's just like transfer of data and transfer of like it would be really nice to transfer more that wealth of knowledge and like have actual conversations too.
Agreed. And I think there's, like I wouldn't know pork in Ireland had we not made that match,
Totally.
and I probably
Totally.
wouldn't know you were we not sharing our
Mhm.
data. And then we got to meet at the conference. And so there's kind of like that connection. But I think it's really important to build those kinds of relationships so that you can talk to people, especially when we're, bracing to see some fairly large scale changes. So like my whales don't come here anymore. And they're like, we have a whole bunch of extra whales we never had before. So you're like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
they're doing well. They're just in a different area. Those kinds of things I think
And
will
like
be
we have a
really
student
important.
right now looking at whales off the coast of like Atlantic Russia. And
Yeah.
like some of them she's getting matches around the world, but then a lot of them we've never seen before. And we're just like adding like our number of 13,000 is going up and up and up.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Right.
where have you been, whales? Is
Yeah.
it just like no effort there? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. But it's putting
It
us
is
in
really
touch with these
interesting.
like people in Russia who are like braving the waters and like taking
Yeah.
these pictures and
Yeah.
yeah. Um it's so interesting. And I feel like the whale human community keeps growing and growing as people
Yeah.
take more pictures and our
I think
whale
so
number
too.
in the catalog keeps getting bigger
Yes.
too.
I think so too. And I think the effort now is higher than it's ever been because everyone has a camera in their pocket. Where
Yeah, that's
before,
true. That is
when I
true.
first started, everyone was shooting film on the boat. And I remember my first summer on
Yep.
the boat, like I had so many pictures. They're like, do you see this picture here of this water? Right before I took this picture, there was a whale there. It was like there was a delay, and then it was like weeks before you got your pictures back, and you had no idea what you had. And so sometimes they were in
Yeah,
focus, sometimes there wasn't a whale there by the time we took a picture, and it was just awful, right? Where
totally.
now, I
And
mean, you
that's
can
how our
like,
catalog started
yeah,
too. It was
yeah,
like
right,
people jumping out in a little inflatable, taking pictures, and
yep,
then developing in a dark room in their
yeah. Or
field
like
station.
slides. I know Memorial had like tons
Yeah,
of slides, and so then they had to all be
we still have
scanned
lots of
because that's what
slides.
people developed them onto, right? So, how
Mhm.
far we've come now that you can look and be sure that you've got a good picture before you move on from that
Yeah, it's
individual.
crazy.
Where I mean, and we're shooting like I don't know how many frames a second now. So like literally, if this picture is not good, then like the next five might like open it up enough that I can see more details. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
just
I
digital
know when our
photography has
students
totally
complain
changed it.
like that this picture is too blurry and it's like blown up on this huge screen. I was like, don't complain. Like people used to look at these tiny little printed pictures that were like
Right.
this big and still make the match. So
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah, exactly. And you can like literally like scroll in or like roll your mouse and
yeah, you
scroll
can
in and be
see.
like, is that the
Yep.
same freckle that's over on this one? Where I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
have that before. So
Hmm.
it's very different now than it was before. I want to talk about the UME. So
Oh
we
yeah.
are not seeing, I would say we are not seeing as many. Most of the whales that we have washing up have, they have been entangled usually. We don't have really very many that would be, unexplained by any means. So how many are we
Yeah.
talking at this point and how long has this been happening for?
Um, Let me pull up. We have like a recent graph.
Yeah,
So actually
sure.
this year has been like a little bit less so far.
That's
In
good.
2026, we've seen fewer than we have. Um, but let me pull up the numbers so I don't quote this too wrong.
No worries.
So
I know there's too much
the
data to
current,
memorize it all.
well, yeah. And it changes all the time too. The current total in the past, like this has been like basically 10 years of a declared unusual mortality event,
Mhm.
is 264 documented whales dead.
Crazy. And
And
how
this is
many
like
would you
along the whole
normally
east coast
expect?
of US from like
Yeah.
Florida to that.
Hmm.
Um the normal mortality would be a lot less. Well, so that's with like in a 10-year period, right? So
Hmm.
like we would expect a few individuals per year that
Hmm.
we would see and document.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's been like tens to twenties per
Yeah.
year.
That's crazy. And all of the whales that are being included in UMEs, are they um like we just don't know what's killing them? Were some of them, hit by ships, or some of them entangled, or do we just not know?
It's all over the map. And like
Hmm.
only some of them they could do like a proper
Yeah.
necropsy. Like some of
Yeah.
them are documented and they're like taken a picture of offshore and we might get like a fluke picture that comes in. Some of them happen on the coastline so they can bring it in and do a proper necropsy. Some
Yeah.
of them are like fresh dead so they can do it really easily and see stuff. Some
Hmm.
of them are like highly decomposed and it's hard to like assess things like
Yeah.
scarring and boat strike.
Yeah.
The other challenge is that it's also hard to document sometimes if a wound on a whale has happened post-mortem. So like after
Hmm.
it died, a boat hit it or something like that.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell like based on the location of the whale and where it is, but sometimes it's hard to like delineate all of those things.
Yes.
But it's been all over the map. Like some whales, there's not a clear answer. Some whales, there's like gear wrapped around it, and it's like very clearly like that was an entanglement issue. Like we
Hmm.
had a whale off the coast of Maine that had like line growing in its mouth, like it had embedded into the jaw and was
Uh,
actually like yeah, it was like poor condition and stuff
poor
like
baby.
that. And then
Yeah.
some
Hmm.
whales with like really clear blunt trauma, like it was definitely a ship
Hmm.
strike, and then some whales you just don't know.
No.
So it's yeah, all over the map. But
Yeah.
like the official wording on our like government website that's monitoring the UME is that
Hmm.
like the likely probability is human induced mortality.
Yeah.
So like it's not natural. It's definitely human interaction, but hard to document and hard to know exactly what's going
Hmm.
on.
And is there
The
any
highest
thought?
prevalency of those is also like mid coast of the
Hmm.
US. So
Yeah.
like we call it the mid Atlantic.
Hmm.
Um it's not really the middle of the Atlantic, but it's like New Jersey, New York to
Midway down
Virginia,
your
like
coast.
that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
midway down our coast. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, any thought to, is it just that we have more data now because there's more people taking pictures in the last 10 years than there would have been maybe in the previous decade? Is that like, I'm sure that that's considered.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like all over the place. And in some cases now like there have been fewer reported dead right now, but there's also a little bit less effort this year because there's been
Mhm.
a lot of funding loss
Yes. True.
of people who are taking images and responding to strandings
Hmm.
and doing those things.
Hmm.
So it's hard to know if that is a real, like, we're not seeing as many dead whales this year, or if there's just like not as many documentation. Some of my thoughts have been to like in the mid-Atlantic, there's been a growing population of humpbacks in that area too. Like I
Hmm.
actually grew up in New Jersey, like not too far away from New York, and growing up, like we didn't if we went on a whale watch, you saw like a common dolphin. That was it.
Yeah. Right.
Like you wouldn't see humpbacks in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And now there's like multiple whale watches, there's a growing population, there's
Hmm.
huge boost in like fish and sand lance. And so we've been
Hmm.
seeing a lot of whales, especially younger whales. A lot of the whales that they see there are like juveniles that haven't yet been like added into our catalog.
Hmm.
So like as the population is growing there, there's a lot more interaction in this also like highly trafficked human zone, right? Like it's a very,
Yeah.
very populated area of the US. So
Yes. Yes.
like, yeah, one of my thoughts is like growing population in a very populated area is definitely
Yes.
going to lead to like more gaps.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For
But
sure.
but yeah, that kind of thing's hard to document.
It sure is. Yeah. The fin whale catalog, I
Mm-hmm.
have a very large data set of fin whales.
Oh yeah, do you?
Yeah, like
Do
almost
you
30 years
catalog
of
them
fin
all
whale
too?
data. We have done
Yeah.
nothing with it. So once we
Okay.
get all of this humpback data sent to you, because we're like 5 years behind, we're getting there. By the end of this month, I bet you'll, or by the end of next month, I bet you'll have it all. Then maybe we'll get a start on fin whales, but they're so hard. They're so much harder than so many of the other species,
They
right?
are, but it's so satisfying.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I feel like I really like I love the humpbacks and our catalog is so important. It's really interesting. But there's so many unanswered questions with fin whales
Absolutely.
too. And when you make a fin whale match, you just feel like the coolest person ever.
So do
You're
you work
like,
with
oh
that
yeah,
catalog
I
too?
see this tiny little dot. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so again, like my technical title is Director of Photo ID Research. Most of my funding comes specifically towards like humpback catalog
Yeah.
work, but it's like my fin whales are my hobby.
Fun. Yeah.
So like whenever I have a student who's looking for a project, I like will push them to the fin whale catalog, and we just
Yeah.
got a chunk of money to. There's actually a beer named after one of our fin whales in Maine.
Fun.
So
That's
we've
cool.
been getting some like money coming from this beer company, which is like
Yep.
amazing and
Neat.
cool. And they like specifically want it to go into the fin whale catalog. So we're hoping to get some
Wow.
momentum for that too.
Okay.
Yeah. And so actually I
Yeah.
have a student right now who is, do you know Danielle Dion, Quadrilink
Yes.
Marine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so she is kind of has a similar, she's got a 20-year data set that she just sent to us
Yep.
a little bit ago. So I have a student working and processing all of that fin whale data right now and building like a
Awesome.
catalog there too.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we got some stuff going on, and we'll
Yeah.
maybe in a year we'll be ready for your fin whales.
Sounds good. Maybe I'll have a chance to go through them before then, but I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And, there's definitely some that we recognize, but unless they have, it's awful to say, but like pretty distinct scars, sometimes it's really difficult. It's so
Yep.
dependent on like
Yep.
sea condition and lighting and, all
Lighting.
kinds of different things before you can, make a match. So, it's harder, but again, they're massive and we know nothing, virtually nothing about them. We know where they feed. We don't know where they breed. We don't know where they calve. We don't know really generally how their numbers are because we don't know those things. And there's not really a widespread catalog for, like there is with humpbacks. And so it will be very interesting if we can figure it all out. Right. So
I'm really waiting for like a really successful fin whale algorithm.
yes,
that can like is like, that has, when that happens, I feel like it'll be a whole different world.
I know, it's so crazy. Our logo is even, and the logo for this podcast is the same. When we worked with the graphic designer to come up with the logo, every time she brought it to me, I'm like, that still looks like a sail from a sailboat. And so finally, I'm such a details person. I just sent her the back of the fin whale. I was like, this is what we'd like. And so she just traced the fin whale dorsal fin. And so that's what's on our logo. Awesome. So yeah, it's super fun, awesome. Especially when you're dealing with people who are not whale people and don't really understand what you're talking about. Like the story I told you about, the whale was too big, the whale was too small. I have never seen a whale. Just tell me how big you want it, So, so it's always fun when you get to share that with people, so they know like it's actually, the real deal, right? Yeah, super
totally.
important. Yeah.
I'm actually part of a project this summer we started like a few years ago too that is trying to tag fin whales.
Ooh,
and
neat.
So later this summer into fall, we're gonna have like a few weeks like way down East Maine, like Eastport area, kind of like right where Danielle is, trying to get some satellite tags on individuals.
Exciting.
But we did this a few years ago and we spent like a month and we got 2 tags on.
Yeah.
It was like
they're so fast. They're so fast.
Not super easy. Yeah.
No, they're not like mugging the boat usually like humpbacks are and things. Like they just are like greyhounds plowing through super fast. Yeah. We see some crazy.
But once you get a tag on, it's super cool. Like we watched a whale go from that area over to Briar Island and back and like down further. Like it was just cool to see the track lines. Yeah. But it was like sample size of 2. And when you start thinking about like photo ID catalogs, there's just so much more data out there. It's just harder to actually process.
You can't really come up with a trend with 2 animals tagged, and like the effort to get tags on animals and the expense is so great,
cost.
Yeah. ID work is so much cheaper. when everyone again has a phone in their pocket, so they can take a picture.
Yep.
Now, granted, you do need a pretty big lens and a pretty fast shutter speed to get a good shot of the whale, but
Yeah.
it's a very different deal with them. And I think they probably spend a good chunk of their life in the deep ocean where nobody sees them anyway. And that again is crazy expensive to have someone, following fin whales on a migration that we don't understand to who knows where.
Unlike the humpbacks that are just like tropical vacation in the winter and everyone wants to do that.
It's so true. Yeah, sure, I'll go to the Caribbean for the winter, no problem, right? So yeah, it's just there's something that happens though, I think, when you are able to follow them onto the breeding grounds, or for people who are in the breeding grounds to the feeding grounds, and see like how these very same whales, the behavior is so different. And you can read about it, but until you see with your eyes an animal that that's in a completely different place on Earth, I think like that.
Oh, and you did that this year, right?
Yeah. So we
went down to Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, we were in Turks and Caicos this year. Had a great trip with Deep Blue Charters, and then we've also been to the Dominican Republic on the Silver Banks like many years ago. So we got to experience that and such a cool thing to be able to see it. Like I said, I mean, you read about it in books, but until you see it with your own eyes, it really is just like, it's unfathomable. And you're like, I know you.
Were you able to see animals you knew?
When we were in the Dominican, we were.
That's amazing.
They weren't ours. They were all Golden Mane whales, but it was still very cool to see them. And this time our kids got to swim with them, which was so really like, they were 11 and 13 over there, and they were just like, I mean, it's a very cool experience. Yeah.
Were they scared? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. I think like my son was playing it very cool because, and my daughter was a little nervous, but like my husband was in the water and is like a fish. And so, I think you get in and it's not very deep there, which is really great.
Yeah.
And you get in, and the minute you see them, everything just changes, right? So like her beak goes down, you're just like, okay, there they are. And that's like amazing, right? So
I've never done that. My husband did one field season in Hawaii in like underwater stuff, and he was freaked out.
Oh, really?
He was scared. Maybe I would be scared.
I remember when we were in the Dominican.
There was a competitive group of males, and I think like we felt like, oh, I shouldn't be here right now.
Yeah,
this was like kind of freaky.
In the Silver Bank,
again, deeper waters.
Yeah, where it's deeper. And I remember like the current pushing me over an escort that was just laying on the bottom and being like, I'm in his space. But I mean, he was legit like 100 feet below me, and I'm 5 feet tall. So he was not concerned about me at all. But I remember being like, but I mean, after you're doing that for a couple of days, you're like, okay, clearly this is a zero issue for them. But it is, when there's deeper water, there's more an opportunity for that to happen. We were in very shallow water in Turks. And so you're not drifting over anybody unless you're on top of them. And in one of the situations, like the calf was on top of the mom and they were swimming, and her pectoral fins are dragging in like on the bottom, and the calf is out of the water because they're in such
oh my god.
I was just like, what are you doing right in here? So
crazy.
like kind of crazy.
So cool.
Yeah. It's really, again, like it's so cold here. So we're not, and we're not allowed to swim with whales in Canada. But even to put your face in with a mask on would be like not so comfortable to really see what's happening. And we have put a GoPro in a few times, and sometimes we do that and get a look at what's happening. But it really gives you a different feel for like how they move, what's happening under there when you're not seeing them. I remember on the Silver Banks, our first trip, being in the water when a calf breached and being like, it didn't look like he was going to do anything big except come to the surface. And then his full body's out, and you're like, that took you zero effort, like it just, but I mean, that tail propels them all day through the water. So like, it's strong, it's not right. But I didn't even feel like he was doing like a big runoff or anything. It was just like out of the water. And then the people we were there with are like, get out. Like, this is not safe right now. All right, everybody out. That was cool. But yeah, we're just going to get in the boat for a minute. So yeah, I mean, it was, it's pretty crazy. Just gives you a completely different perspective for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a question too about like you said, you will be doing some field work, but is there a season for you with this work that's busier than others? Or is it kind of just like steady and crazy all the time?
I'm still getting a feel for it. I haven't been in this, like, I've worked with allied whale in so many different capacities
Yes.
over
Yeah.
a lot of years, but my role in the catalog position has only been for the past few years, and I had a baby in the middle of it. So it's like I'm still getting
Yeah.
a feel for what the rhythm is, but it's kind of all over the place. What
Mhm.
I see right now is like sometimes it's harder to get in touch with like the people during their field seasons. But
Mhm.
those are also, like, we work with people on the breeding ground and with people on the feeding ground, so they're
Yes.
opposite of each other.
Yeah.
So it kind of is less of a like the season versus the season and more of just like a flip of like who you're getting
Yes.
data from and who
Sure.
you're
Yeah.
communicating with during those different times.
Yeah.
But what we have transitions between like the academic school year, because we're part of a university where we have like
Uh-huh.
a pile of college students working with us,
Right.
into like summer field season mode, where
Mhm.
we're also supporting some local field work and a set of interns that are partnered with a whale watch company. So the
Yes.
kind of rhythm surrounding the catalog work changes,
Yes.
but the catalog itself kind of um, is just ongoing and constant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a
I would
lot of
say we
data.
get a lot fewer matching because we have a student workforce during the academic year.
Yes.
Our matching process is slower in the summer.
Yeah.
So we catalog fewer probably in the summer months.
Than you do in the winter. Yeah. And you
Hmm.
also have people that are in the fields in the summer. So that
Yeah.
removes some
Yep.
of that. Yeah. Some of the people who are able to do the matching. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and then you're using AI matching as well as like, obviously
Hmm.
confirming it. We all have to still confirm the AI because I know I run it and sometimes get like,
Oh
it's
yeah, I make
probably
mistakes all the
unlikely that
time.
this is a
So like,
Pacific
you
whale.
probably sent you last week. Yeah.
Hold on one sec.
Just
Sure.
to like historically it used to be like without the automated algorithm at
Mhm.
all, we would have like a two-person kind of like a buddy system. So
Yeah.
if we have a new individual, like one person would take it manually and match it with all of the other whales in our catalog,
Mhm.
and if they found a match, we catalog it. If they did not find a match, then a second person would do that
Yeah.
and bring it all the way through. So now with the advent of the automated algorithm, that basically takes our first person away. So
Mhm.
like our first step is we put it in and automatically run it through the reference catalog.
Yep.
And if we don't find a match, then someone will manually take that image and bring it through just to check.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like a lot of our half flukes don't work with the
Yeah.
algorithm. So a
It
lot of
doesn't
it
like
is
those.
like looking at the half flukes, and it's gotten better with the underwater, but some
Mhm.
of historically those were challenging too.
Yeah, unless
But
they
yeah,
have
it's
really
kind of the
distinct
rhythm.
marks, it's really hard. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Kathy's really good at it with the Turks and Caicos Island
Yeah.
group. She's really good at it. And
Yeah.
what about, I know they're building a bit of a catalog with dorsal fins and pectoral fins. So are you guys, you're adding that kind of data as well when you get it?
No, we're
Not yet.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
It's well,
It's a
so
lot.
we like our local data that we have, we take dorsal fin pictures. Like Juke, who does the Gulf of Maine catalog,
Yes,
she has a collection of dorsal fins too. But with like 13,000 plus individuals, it's just too much.
too much
So we
data.
keep
Yeah,
it simple. Yep.
yeah. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. And then at some point, maybe it'll all be like connected together and it'll be super easy, you know?
Yeah. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Do you see a lot of differences between individuals? Like, are there some tails that you're matching and going like, look at the crazy differences between this tail and, when we last saw it, this has to be the same individual. Do you have a lot of those?
You mean like shifts in pigmentation and
Yeah, or even
or
in
yeah.
starring. Yeah.
Yep, we
Yeah.
see it. And we've actually been starting to like create a database with it in hopes of like trying to publish something as going forward. Some
Hmm.
individuals, like, you don't see much changing at all, and some individuals, it's crazy how much change happens. And even
Yeah.
like in the scarring, in the trailing edge, like a lot of those like really sharp peaks will kind of wear down over time and
Hmm.
become more smooth.
Yeah.
And yeah, new scars that feel really distinct that weren't there previously. And then even like the actual background coloration will get
Yeah.
some shifts.
We have had a couple of mother calf pairs early in our season. So in the last say 3 weeks ago. And mom and calf, but like, you know, definitely that kind of situation, but whether they're this year's calves or last year's calves, who knows at this point of the season? It's so hard to tell. But again, the tails on the calves are very much like that gray where it's like, I don't trust it. You know what I mean? Like, where you know that something's going to change. And so,
So we don't catalog it. Yeah.
Until it's older.
We don't catalog it until the calf has been resighted. Yep.
Yeah.
We have a separate folder and category, and we keep that calf picture and it's part of our our reference catalog in that Happy Whale algorithm.
Yeah.
So if we get an individual in the future, the algorithm can match a lot of those calves with a newer animal, but we don't actually include it as one of our 13,000 whales until we get that resighting.
Yeah.
In the future.
Because it will be different. So do we have any idea about how long it takes for that full pigmentation to develop, or we just don't know?
Yeah, I don't have a good number from you off the top of my head, but a few years, I would say roughly.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Some of the calves you see, it's like white and black, and you're like, this is how this calf is going to be. And other times there's this weird gray whatever happening, and you're like, that's not going to look like that the next time I see you. You know, so it's really interesting. And I remember the first time that I was contacted about a match that had happened with a whale like that, and I was shocked. So I'm like, the match, the markings don't even match. They're trying to show me, and they're like, trace the trailing edge, and it's an exact match to the trailing edge, and you're like, wow, that's wild. Like, it was a significant change. Yeah.
And that's why too, the automated Happy Whale algorithm, puts a big weight on the trailing edge. So it makes that match pretty easily, even though it would be really hard
to do it with the naked eye. And especially, I mean, I have been going through our catalog, and we're at, I think, 1,700. So kudos to whoever it is who's flipping through 13,000, 373 whales to confirm a match, because it's hard on your eyes, and you focus on one thing, but then you have to keep flipping back because you're like, what if I think that's what I was supposed to be focusing on? Wait a minute. I mean, it's not easy to do manual matching. No. And I know we've had, Roger Etcheberry was amazing in terms of photographic memory, flip cards. He could tell you who whales were, just I mean, I am not like that.
It's crazy.
I so wish I was. They're like, oh, that's number 13265. And she was last spotted in, if only I had that capacity in my brain right now. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Anyway, I just, every time we talk, we learn new things, right? And, as we talked about before, how great would it be if we had more of a chance to all sit and chat with each other and share stories and things we're seeing. And maybe we'll get a chance to do that again sometime soon.
Yeah. Are you going to Puerto Rico to the biennial?
I don't think we're going to make it to Puerto Rico this year. Do we know where the next one is? Where the next Humpback Whale World Congress is? No, it hasn't been announced yet. No, so maybe we'll get to that one. But I don't think Puerto Rico's in the cards for this year. But hopefully the next time. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yes, for sure.
Our director's actually up your way right now. He's in Newfoundland.
Oh, really? Oh, it's in the school right now? I'll keep my eye out for him. We had a College of the Atlantic field school here last year.
He teaches that.
Yeah. So got to interact with them a little bit. A couple of them stopped by the shop, and then when we were walking the dog, we saw a bunch of them in the park, so I ended up chatting. So it was really fun to see them here for field school. So yeah, it's neat. It's neat to be able to see different areas, like I said, and see what animals are doing and how it's different than where you are. Even though we're in the same ocean basin, things are remarkably different from one area to the next. So it's pretty cool. I can hardly wait to see the things that you're going to find from our next 5 years of data that we're going to send you. I have a feeling we'll be talking a lot in the coming months. But thank you so much for joining me today. I know that you're crazy busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with me.
No problem.
All right.
It was really nice to talk